What's going on, folks? French Fit back here with another video, and today I'm going to talk to you about carbs and why they're such an important fuel source, especially for most types of exercise and just, general healthy function. So carbohydrates, we all love carbs. Unless you do keto, then you secretly like carbs and say you don't, but that's besides the point. Let's get into it. So for the most part, carbs equal fuel. Now, the body can use fats for a fuel source, but since fats are a lot more calorie dense, meaning on a chemical structure level, they're a lot more chemically complicated, so to say. Chemistry is not really my thing. So it takes your body a lot longer to break these fats down and use them as actual fuel. Carbohydrates can be, quickly digested into the bloodstream and readily used as fuel for exercise and for your brain. Your brain actually uses glucose, aka carbs, exclusively to power itself. So it's the body's preferred fuel source, like I said, and it's easily stored and accessed. Now, you store it in two main places: your muscles, your skeletal muscles, and your liver. You can store about, give or take, 500 grams of glycogen, which is basically just the stored form of carbohydrates once you get it in your body, in your muscles, and then about another 100 grams or so in your liver. So that's easily accessed when you're exercising. So, speaking of carbs and exercise, generally, the higher intensity of exercise, the more your body's going to rely on carbohydrates. Now, I don't know if you can see this chart here. It's called a respiratory exchange ratio. Don't worry about the name. The chart here basically says, the intensity and how many carbs versus fats your body is burning for fuel. So, for example, I'm sitting here on my ass doing nothing. I'm probably burning primarily fats for fuel. Now, don't take that the wrong way and think you can just lay on the couch all day and burn fat and lose weight, because calories in, calories out is always going to be the main factor. But tend to be, if you're lower intensity sports that are very long in duration, like ultra marathons, Ironman triathlons, in those cases you may be a little bit better off relying on a higher fat diet, just because it's super long in duration and your body can, like I said, your muscles can store a certain amount of glycogen as well as your liver, but your body can basically store infinite amounts of fat. So, but for most people, that's not them. If you're just the average gym goer, you want to increase muscle size, muscle strength, you play a sport, carbs are going to be you're going to want to be your go-to fuel source. And the higher intensity, like I said, if you're a sprinter, that's basically the highest intensity you can get to. You're going to be relying on pretty much almost all carbs. So, like I said, lower intensity, your body uses more fat, but the higher intensity, even moderate intensity, your body's going to rely on those carbs for that quick source of energy, which is why it's so important. Now, we could break this down into all the different types of, monosaccharides and disaccharides and all that complicated shit that isn't actually going to help you, but I'm going to break it down into simple and complex carbs. So, they are both good in certain contexts. Now, we can get into a whole different discussion about is there good and bad foods. So basically, simple carbs, they're going to digest much more quickly. They tend to be very low in fiber and a lot of times higher in sugars, and especially added sugars, which if you know simple sugars, stuff like processed sweets, you get a quick, there's a reason why when kids eat sugar, they get a sugar rush and then shortly later they crash. That's because it's a quick source of energy. Now, is a time and place for simple carbs. They're really good for intra-workout. If you're doing, really long and intense workouts, you might want to sip some Gatorade. That's pretty much just sugar and electrolytes. Or I've even seen people eat candy during their workouts. Actually played basketball with a guy he ate sour strips of candy during halftime. And post-workout, you really want to get simple carbs in. You want to limit the amount of fiber because you want to spike your blood sugar levels to kind of kickstart that recovery process, because like I said, your body is going to burn those carbs off during exercise. You want to replenish them as quickly as possible. Now, complex carbs are better they're slower digesting. They tend to be higher in nutrients and fiber and lower in added sugars and sugars overall in general for the most part. So they're more of a sustainable energy source. So they're best for pre-workout. Notice the asterisk here. Depends on when you eat your pre-workout meal. Say if you eat it 2 hours before you work out, you definitely want some slow digesting carbs. But if you're just eating something right before you work out, you might want some simple sugars, just because you don't have to worry. Simple sugars will get you through an hour workout. But if you're eating that 2 hours in advance, that might have worn off and you might be crashing by the time you hit the gym. So, and other meals away from training. So you want to generally, if you're focused on like muscle growth or strength building, you want to focus most of your a lot of carbohydrates during and especially before and after your training. Now, I say the further away you get from your training sessions, the more complex carbohydrates you want to get, just because they're a more sustainable source of energy and they're going to keep you feeling more energized throughout the day. Your blood sugar levels are going to be more steady as opposed to the peaks and valleys that you get with these simple sugars. So some sources of those are going to be like whole grains, sweet potatoes, brown rice as opposed to like white rice, stuff that's higher in fiber, vitamins and minerals that's going to stay in your bloodstream for a little bit longer. Now, this graph, this is actually a graph from a physiology lab that I took. I didn't delete it because I thought I would use it one day, and god damn it, I was right. So here is an experiment. We did a blood glucose tolerance test. So me and 3 other people, this is just me and one other person compared, we basically took 4 tablespoons of honey straight to the dome. So for reference, that's about 60 to 70 grams of just pure sugar right to the dome. And we measured our glucose before we did that, then we measured it 30 minutes after we ate the honey, and then 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and 120 minutes. So you see here, I think on the blue line, because yeah, I thought I was damn near about diabetic here. So I think my fasting was 90, so that's not bad. You definitely want your fasting blood glucose to be under 100. And then 30 minutes after, it shot up all the way to 148? Yeah, that's crazy. If I had that fasting blood sugar, I'd be diabetic. And then went down a little bit after 60 minutes. Then I really dropped all the way from 120, 128, 126? I can't read, guys. All the way down to 87. So you see, honey, it's a simple sugar. It's basically all sugar. I had that rapid spike. Then between the 30-minute mark and the 90-minute mark, it dipped down to below where I was at before I took the honey. So that's just an example of simple sugars. Now, that's just me. Everyone's body is going to respond a little bit differently. So there you go. So practical applications, like we talked about for muscle gain and performance, most sports, if you're not like an ultra endurance athlete, generally the more carbs the better. You know, if you're eating enough protein and enough healthy fats, carbs are going to be, you know, your go-to fuel source. Like I said, you want to have a lot of them around your training, pre-workout and post-workout, maybe a little bit intra-workout. You know, if it's a super hot day, you're playing like football outside and it's super humid, maybe like an electrolyte drink like Gatorade or Pedialyte. But most people, you know, if you're working out, unless you're working out for like 3 hours, then I would maybe think that you're an endurance athlete, but you probably don't need a ton of carbs intra-workout. And then for fat loss, you want to keep the carbs as high as possible. Obviously, to lose weight, you're going to have to cut some calories, and a lot of times they're going to have to come from either carbs or fats. But generally, you want to keep carbs as high as possible because they're going to help you get better pumps in the gym, help your training sessions, help you have more energy to have good workouts to retain that muscle that you've built. So I hope this was helpful. I will probably be coming out with another one on fats and proteins pretty soon. If it was, feel free to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Instagram, French_fit40, posting content daily on there, trying to post content weekly on this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, people. Peace.